friends. I'm your host, Dr. Dave Layton, and thank you for joining me in our journey to hope. It is my desire through this podcast to bring you information about how to discover, sustain, or perhaps regain hope. Well, in this episode, I'll be speaking again with Becky Beggs. Becky was a guest on this podcast last year, and I'm glad she agreed to be with me again. Again, Becky, we became friends as soon as I spoke with you. In fact, my wife said to say hello to you.
Oh, well, very good. Tell her hello.
She's in another part of the building working on some stamping projects that she's got going on.
Well,
So
good.
she does the stamping up. And so whenever we come here to Camp B on a sojourn or whatever, she spends time doing that while I'm doing sojourner stuff. So
well, that's great. Yeah, I love to stamp and do cards and stuff like that as well.
Well, she got some new stamp items and she's showing them off to a couple of the ladies here. So
yeah.
Right. Well, hello, Becky, and it is good to see you again.
You as well.
I told you last time we met, you gave me the term cancerversary, and I've actually used that at the cancer center where I volunteer, and it's kind of caught on there. And I mentioned that I had recently celebrated a cancerversary about, 2 or 3 weeks ago. It was the first anniversary of when they took my port out. And of course, it's not just the taking of the port, but that was at the end of, you're through with your medications and all of that.
Right. It's kind of like what it symbolizes as well. I think that's great. I think any milestones that that we can celebrate, we ought to go for it and celebrate them.
Not necessarily part of this, but you probably have experienced it as well. On some of these cancerversaries, I am reminded of some times that were not all that wonderful during the time period of undergoing treatment and all of that for my cancer. And I have actually experienced a little bit of post-traumatic stress.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I've learned that that's not unusual. And I've even experienced a little bit of survivor's guilt. And that probably surprised me more than anything. But anyway, that's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about things that are more pleasant. But there's things that we just don't expect.
Well, there are. Yeah, I say cancer's the disease that keeps on giving. You just you think you're past something, and then something will trigger it, and it's completely normal. Completely normal.
And I think it's important. And this is kind of why I'm talking about it in this episode. I think it's important that when we realize that we share that with other folks that are starting to go through this journey, let them know. It is, unfortunately, as you said, a gift that keeps on giving.
Yes.
I just soon returned it to sender, but here it is. we deal with it. All right. Well, you have... tell our audience again, remind our audience a little bit about yourself. You're one of the most remarkable people I've ever met, and it's been a joy to my life. It's been an enrichment to my life to have met you, and I thank Steve and Janet for introducing us. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, and I feel the same about you, and I'm just honored that you asked me to be back on. I was diagnosed in the summer of 2014. So I'm coming up on 10 years. I was getting my baseline mammogram, and once the staging and everything came back from that baseline mammogram, I was diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer. So I've been metastatic or stage 4, which just means the cancer spread to other organs from my original diagnosis. I'm married. I have 2 sons, 2 daughters-in-law. I have a great support system, great church family. I've been on chemo every 3 weeks for the last 10 years. So, it's just kind of embedded into my life now.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, every time I set any of my medications up that I'm going to take, I'm reminded about how I used to have to set up the chemo pills and do all of that. And
Yes.
oh,
Yeah.
I'm, I'm so thankful, though, with the progress modern science and medicine have made. Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah, I am hoping in the relatively near future to have my oncologist, Dr. Robert Avery, on as a guest, and he's going to talk about how cancer is not necessarily the death sentence it used to be, that they have made wonderful advances in cancer treatment and cancer care.
Yes.
So that'll be an exciting episode. But listen, again, the reason I wanted to have you on is as you're living this recovery and this ongoing life, it'll
Hmm.
be a part of our life forever. You have found a way to turn around and help others. And that is just, you know it. It is so incredibly important that we do that
Yes.
for our
Yes.
own good. But certainly,
Absolutely.
we just, I tell people, I can't help it. You
Hmm.
know, you just can't help it. I volunteer at the Cancer Center. I want to, you know,
Exactly.
something that I think is exciting. You're taking your talent and your knowledge and doing something with it. And that's where I want to talk about, or what I want to talk about. So talk about what you're doing, and
Okay.
it's exciting, and
Yes.
you're helping others whose hope is being
Well,
challenged. Okay, go for it.
right. Okay. Well, I started out with just doing, and of course, it took me a few years to get to the point of just surviving the chemo and things like that, to get to a point where I thought, okay, this is my life now. So what is my purpose now? And of course, I prayed and I looked to God for that purpose, and I began doing the chemo bags. And that's been very successful, blesses the lives of the people who are getting treatment that day. I'm getting treatment that day, so it blesses my life. And so I've been doing that now for several years. And then I, started to want to add other things into it. And I began journaling early on, like within probably weeks of getting my diagnosis. I began journaling as a means to keep people updated. And, so they weren't constantly having to text or call or think, oh, I don't want to bother them, but they could be updated on what was happening and where I was at.
Okay.
Then that kind of evolved into journaling, more of as a cathartic practice for me. And I went ahead and posted, those journals on those entries, because I thought, well, if they even help one other person, then that will be good. So I began journaling for me because I was always able to cry at the drop of a hat, like Hallmark commercials, Publix commercials, just little things, I could tear
Sure.
up. But on a lot of these medications, because I do have triple positive breast cancer, which is the hormone receptors as well, a lot of them block the hormones. And so I find it very difficult
Mm.
to just cry when I feel like that's the emotion I need to release my emotions. So I had to find a different way, and that was writing. I've always enjoyed writing. I wouldn't say that I was an expert or experienced. I taught writing in elementary school, things like that. I've always enjoyed it, but I started to think about doing some journals and stuff, and then through that, our mutual friend Steve Johnson and you and many others encouraged me to publish something, to
Good.
publish um, the journey. And so that got me thinking, and with coming up on 10 years, I've decided to make those entries into a book.
Okay.
And so that will come out this summer, kind of, with my 10th cancerversary. But
Okay.
what I've done currently, what I have currently are journals that people can write in, and they're prompted journals for like the cancer patients, and it doesn't have to just be breast cancer, any cancer, when they're first
Right.
diagnosed, as well as caregiver journals. And what I thought I would do, because it's a creative outlet for me, and I do enjoy making these and creating these. So I kind of think of the journals as what I know, what I love, um, like education, hobbies. I was a teacher for many, many years, so I've done some educational type workbooks, hobbies. I'm in a book club, so I did a book club journal. But I'd like to focus on more of the cancer prompted journals, journals for caregivers, prayer journals for the patients,
Okay.
things that would, probably anybody could use, but that would be more specific to somebody who is fighting a terminal or a chronic illness.
Yeah. Okay. Um, so so you started out making what did you call them? The chemo bags?
Yes, the chemo
Yeah.
bags.
When I think of chemo bags, I think of that one hanging on the tower next to me.
Oh no, these are far more fun.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
give out we
I
give out
bring,
chemo bags at the cancer center for patients, with
do you?
support
Yeah.
items.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And these I give out two every time I go. And I just pray that God leads me to the person who needs it that day. And it just has, stuff for dry mouth and lotions and
Yeah. Yeah.
just like little encouragement type, trinket type things.
Yeah.
And
I
just,
remember my lips would become so chapped.
oh yes, I put in several like little lip balms or
Yeah.
chapsticks, and just things that I use, but things that I also think might brighten their day.
Okay. And I'm sorry, did you mention about you used to also make T-shirts
I did no, I did not mention that, but I
oh, okay.
did. I closed my Etsy shop and stuff. It was just getting
Okay.
to be too much, but I did, and I tried to focus on cancer shirts and just positive, inspirational, things
Okay.
to encourage
So
people.
so when I think of journaling, I think
Mhm.
of just keeping notes about what happened on a given day, my thoughts about something. So how does a person begin journaling? I'm assuming part of your writing is you're helping people to learn how to do that.
Well, I have always journaled. I've always enjoyed journaling and I probably really started when I got married. So that's 30 plus years ago. And I just kept a journal for future children and things like that, that they could have and look back on and go, oh, this was mom, this was before
Yeah.
we were even born, and that type of thing.
Yeah.
So I've always enjoyed journaling. And then once with neuropathy and things like that,
Yeah.
I've started to journal online. I always kept a paper pencil journal, and I still do a little bit of that, but I do it more online now just because it's easier for me rather than writing it out, to get the cramps and stuff. And I use WordPress, and basically that's what I do, the same things. Now it's changed a little bit where I used to do, this is what I've done today or in the last few days, and kind of that leads to the feelings and things like that. But now, I will feel something. It's not like a consistent where I put something out weekly or monthly. It's just an idea that starts swirling in my head, and
Okay.
then I just can't keep it contained. And so that's when I begin to write about it. It's almost like there's been several things that I have to process. And then once I've processed them, I'm able to start just writing about it. And some
Okay.
people are different. Some people have to write about it to process it. And
Okay.
I would say that I do that some as well.
So it's not an arduous task. You try to do something that feels natural.
Exactly.
Okay. My
Yeah.
wife, every year, I buy my wife a calendar
Uh-huh.
booklet, a calendar booklet,
Right.
and she will use that for journaling. Um,
Uh-huh.
she'll put all the dates of birthdays and anniversaries and all of that, but she'll also keep notes on events that happen during the year.
Yes. Yeah.
And then we kind of do that online also with our online calendar. We share the calendar together. So um, it's good to go back over. Facebook, we're members of Facebook, and
Uh-huh.
Facebook every day comes up with a year ago or 5 years ago or something like that. You have
Exactly.
memories or something, and some of those can be very poignant
Mm-hmm.
reminders, and it's good. I like it because I'll read it or look at it and I'll say, what was my state of mind? Have I grown since then? Has the
Right.
situation gotten better? Sometimes
Yes.
we're in the moment and things seem catastrophic, and they are.
Uh-huh.
I mean, they're obviously serious, but then we
Right.
look back over them a year later or sometime later, and it's not
Mm-hmm.
that it's not still, it doesn't lessen it. It's just maybe we've come to a better understanding about it or insights. So
Exactly.
so I see
Yes.
the value of journaling as you're talking about it because we do. We
Yes.
want to remember those things.
Right. And I try and be vulnerable. It's I try to keep them encouraging and positive, and yet I know that that's not real life. And I don't want people to think that I'm sugarcoating or glossing over anything.
Yeah,
So there
yeah,
are definitely some entries where I'm saying, okay, I'm struggling today. I've got to get myself up out of this pit. And so I try and be real, but not dwell on the negative. It's kind of like what you look for is what you're going to get. So
okay.
I try to look for the positive and dwell on the positive, but then there's times where I'm just really having a bad day and I write about it because it might help someone else to know it's okay to have a
That's right.
bad day.
I had a thought a little bit earlier. You had said something. Sometimes when we hope for something, we
Mm-hmm.
want something to happen.
Right.
Um, it's it's kind of like how God answers prayers. Sometimes the answer is different than we even would have imagined. I tell people when
Absolutely.
you're a child of God, it's always a better answer anyway. But
Yes.
sometimes what we're hoping for takes a different direction. And to
Yes.
me, that would be another um, value of journaling. I could say, I want this or this or this to happen, or
Mm-hmm.
here are my thoughts. And then we look back later and we see how that journey in life during that time went in a different direction. And again, it's part of that self-reflection, that
Mm-hmm.
evaluation. Have I
Right.
grown? Has it gotten
Right.
better? What do I need to change my choices or whatever? So,
Exactly.
and certainly God's ways are always better anyway. That's
Yeah.
why when
Yeah.
we pray, we put it in his hands.
Absolutely. And his answers when we have seen them, when we've gotten on the other side and seen them, are far more creative than what I could have even thought to ask for.
You alluded to it, and I think you even said it in our original podcast. I felt it when I was processing what my doctor had told me and what was going to be happening. My prayer was, Lord, okay, help me through this. Help me
Yeah.
use this to glorify you. And you are doing that in this process. So I know you felt that way as well.
Yes. Yeah. I'm doing my very best.
Well, it's not about self, but it's about self. Can't help but, I mean, we're a piece of what's going on. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Something else about journaling, a thought that came to me is that uh, another guest reminded me of it, and I appreciated her for
Mhm.
doing it. She said, everybody's got a story to tell, and it's a story
Absolutely.
worth telling, and it's a story worth listening to. And so
Hmm.
journaling helps that.
Yes. Yeah. It really does. And it helps you kind of, like as you were talking about self-reflection, it helps you kind of piece together your story.
Yeah.
And to see, 10 years, it feels like a lifetime. I'm a
Yeah.
totally different person than I was 10 years ago, but it feels like yesterday at the same time. So when I go back and I'm able to reflect on those entries, and I don't do that all the time, but when I do and I reflect on those entries, I can see the growth, and I can just see how I would never have asked for cancer, because who
Right.
would? But on the other hand, it's brought me closer to God. It's brought me closer to a network. You're kind of immediately connected to others who have
Yes.
cancer.
Yes.
Um, it's just made me a different person, changed my perspective, softened me, made me more compassionate to others. And so just so many blessings can come from it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not something any of us asked for, but certainly, okay, if this is life, I'm
Right.
still, as a child of God, I'm still to glorify the Father. So, okay, I can use this to glorify the Father. That's something we have to grow to, because when you get hit with
Yes.
it between your eyes, that may not be your first thought, but
No,
you take a
no.
deep breath and you stand back and say, okay,
Hmm.
I can
Yeah.
do
And for
this.
some people, it takes a while.
Yeah,
Everybody handles it different. And
that's right.
some people it takes a while. I was never one to question or to get angry. I just thought, here it is, and what's the next step?
I, it brings to mind one of the patients at the cancer center that I interact with. When she first came in for treatment, I could tell she was struggling, and
Hmm.
she was angry, and she didn't necessarily take the anger out on us, but she, was short with her
Yes.
answers, and you could tell. And I said,
Yeah.
okay, I know what she's going through. We're not going to change our kindness and compassion and care for her, and
Hmm.
she has grown now to understand. We're there to help her. She's
Right.
going to make it,
Yeah.
and but like you said, she had to learn to deal with this, and
Right.
um, so anyway,
Yeah. And that's why I like sometimes these prompted journals that will give you a topic. In them, I also have, just your thoughts to write about anything. But, like, what were your first thoughts when you were
yeah,
diagnosed? Um, have you told family members, and how did that go? And then I think it's important for a caregiver to have an outlet, because sometimes they're the ones who are angry,
yeah. I
that
noticed
this
that
happened.
you are also making available a journal for caregivers.
Yes. Yeah, because they are such an important role.
Oh, yes. Every time I interact with a patient, I'm also trying to interact with the caregiver,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
are just so incredibly important and wonderful, and they
Yes.
have needs also.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My mantra, whatever you call it, that I live by now: no one walks alone, and that caregiver
Um,
is part of that journey.
yes. Yeah. And sometimes you have several caregivers, like my husband works nights. So I call my mom my chemo buddy, because she takes
Okay.
me to chemo every time. But then we don't live with her. So, when my husband gets home, and I'm talking about like the week of chemo, I'm pretty much self-sufficient. But if I'm not feeling good or something, he'll go get me something to drink. He'll go make me something to eat. If it's during my oldest son and his daughter-in-law live with us, because he's in physician's assistant school and
Okay.
cannot work while he's in physician's assistant school. So
Right.
this
Yeah.
this just in this climate, it's so much smarter for them just to live with us. So during the afternoon hours, he and my daughter-in-law, if I need anything, or they help out. So it's kind of a family of caregivers that I
That's
say I would
wonderful.
have.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is, Yeah, that is so wonderful. We
Yeah.
love our caregivers, and they're just
Yes.
such an important, they're part of the healthcare team. They may not
Hmm.
realize it, but they are. They're part of
They,
that. Um,
yes.
Lynn, my wife, was important because our chemo brain was affected, and
Oh,
she would be double checking. I would count out my pills, all my
yeah.
medications, and then she would follow up and she'd say, "Hey, you missed one," or
Yes.
whatever,
Yeah. Yeah. Chemo
So
brain's a real thing.
yeah, anytime I went in for a checkup or whatever, she's with me. I want
Yes.
her ears and her brain. I don't
Yes.
still don't trust mine. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's wonderful. So, all right, kind of summarize the publications that you have available, and then let's talk about how somebody can find those if they would
Okay.
like.
So I've got several like journals or prompted type journals. Um, some coloring books. I plan on doing a few more of those.
Wait, wait,
Like I
wait.
said,
Those are coloring books for grown-ups?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, and then as for the summer, that's when I plan to have the book come out of my first 10 years of
Okay.
just kind of my thoughts or whatever. I haven't decided what I'm going to title it for the first 10 years. And
Okay.
then shortly after that, I've got kind of brewing in my mind a children's book for like when mom
Oh,
has cancer or when dad gets
yeah.
cancer.
Oh,
So
please.
so definitely the book coming out this summer, but then in the future, kind of bubbling in my imagination is to have this children's book, and and then other than that, just kind of doing the more of just the journals and the word search, just things that people can do like while they're getting chemo and stuff. Those types of things. Those don't take me long. So, I'll probably continue to add to those. But as far as the two books, definitely the one this summer. And then hopefully shortly after that, a children's book.
Okay. And how can we find those?
Okay, well, my page is amazon.com/author/Becky Beggs.
Wait a minute. Okay. I'm writing that down because I'm going to have
Okay.
that in my notes. Amazon.com, author
Uh-huh.
Becky Beggs.
Yeah, with the forward
Okay.
slash between and after author.
I'm sorry. Yeah, a slash between each one. Okay.
Yeah,
Yes, I will have that in my show notes for folks.
yeah. And
And
and then on Instagram, Becky Beggs. I've got my email, beckybeggs@msn.com. Any of those ways people can contact me. And I can send
okay.
those to you as well.
Becky Beggs at msn.com. Oh, by the way, I
Correct.
found out what happened that the email earlier didn't go through. I'd put an extra letter in your name. So
Oh,
that's what was going on. All right. Well, good. Because we want to make those available. They would both for, again, the caregiver and the patient. Uh,
right.
it might make a wonderful gift to somebody,
Hmm.
um, to share with somebody, to have them
Yes.
available. And it doesn't have to
Yeah.
be a family member to family member. It might be, for example, a congregation that has members that are becoming
Yes.
diagnosed, that
Yeah. And it
make them
seems like we
available
have
for
that
them
weekly.
as part of the support. Yes. I
Yeah.
think that's
Yeah.
very, very good. Okay. Do you have any other thoughts you want to share?
Well, basically, just for what I have learned is that God is in control, even when I don't feel Him or feel like I see Him working.
Yeah.
I know that He is still in control. And then I try to find something good that will come from the experience of having cancer. What is something good that I can do? And there is so much power in prayer. I feel like I am here 10 years later because people all over the world have been praying for me and continue to.
What a wonderful gift it is
Mm,
to be able to
yes,
pray and to know people are praying for us. It's just such a wonderful gift. Yeah.
yes,
Okay. Well, Becky, again, praise God for your ministry, for what you're doing. and thank you for that. Thank you for being
Thank
a
you.
guest. I look forward. Let's talk again in the future sometime.
I think that sounds wonderful. Okay, well, Dave, it was great to see you again and talk with you, and best of luck with all of your adventures.
Okay, thank you. Well, friends, thank you for joining Becky and I as together we journey to hope. I trust in some small way we have encouraged you to discover, sustain, or regain hope through our efforts. I invite you to contact me if you have any questions or comments, or you wish to share with me something you've experienced in your journey to hope. My email is ourjourneytohope@gmail.com. That's our journey and the number 2, hope@gmail.com. I look forward to sharing more with you soon. And again, thank you for listening. And until our next episode, remember, we give all glory to God our Father.